There's a disease out there that can take a perfectly healthy person and in just a few hours, put them in a fight for their life. That's meningitis, and for decades we've been fighting it piece by piece, region by region. But here's the thing. Now, for the very first time, we have a unified global playbook. So let's break down this new plan.
So, to really get why this playbook is such a big deal, you have to understand the sheer scale of the problem. Get this, 2.51 million. That's the estimated number of people who got meningitis in just one single year, 2019. It's this massive global threat that honestly doesn't always get the attention it deserves.
And that's not even the whole story. For the people who survive, the battle is often just beginning. The consequences can be absolutely devastating. We aren't just talking about making it out of the hospital. We're talking about what life looks like afterward. As the new guidelines point out, 1 in every 5 survivors is left with life-altering challenges. Things like hearing loss, brain damage, even losing a limb. All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to break down the threat itself. Then we'll look at the global roadmap that's been designed to stop it. We'll dive into the nitty-gritty of how it's diagnosed and the absolute race against time to treat it. After that, we'll cover the crucial and often forgotten part, life after meningitis. And we'll wrap up by asking, what does this all mean for the future? Okay, first things first. What exactly are we dealing with here? Well, meningitis is a serious inflammation of the delicate linings that protect our brain and spinal cord, called the meninges. Now, it can be caused by a few things, viruses, fungi, but it's the bacterial form that is the real monster, the one that moves with terrifying speed. So, what are the red flags? In adults, doctors are trained to look for a classic triad, a fever, a stiff neck, and a change in mental state, like confusion. But here's the catch. That classic trio only shows up in about half of the cases. And for babies, man, it's even tougher. The signs are way more subtle, which makes catching it early incredibly challenging. So, faced with this tricky, fast-moving global threat, the world finally decided, enough. We need a coordinated strategy. And that led to the World Health Organization's Defeating Meningitis by 2030 initiative. This is a huge deal. It's the first ever global roadmap to tackle this disease head-on. And listen, this didn't just happen overnight. It's been years in the making. It all kicked off back in 2017 with a global call to action. By 2020, it was officially approved. And that brings us to right now, with the release of these new guidelines, which are basically the practical how-to guide, the actual playbook for the doctors and nurses on the front lines. So what's the end game here? The whole roadmap boils down to 3 big, ambitious goals. 1. Get rid of the big, devastating epidemics of bacterial meningitis. 2. Slash cases and deaths from the types we can already vaccinate against. And 3, and this one is so important, focus on the survivors. Reduce their disability and help them have a better quality of life. Okay, a big global plan is great, but how does it actually work in a real hospital, right? Well, it all starts with one thing, diagnosis. The playbook's first job is to help doctors figure out exactly what they're fighting, because you can't defeat an enemy you can't identify. So how do they do it? How do they tell the difference between a really dangerous bacterial invader and a less severe viral one? Well, it's pretty much pure medical detective work, and it all starts by getting a clue straight from the scene of the crime. And that key clue comes from a procedure you've probably heard of, a lumbar puncture, also known as a spinal tap. They take a tiny sample of the fluid that cushions your brain and spine. This fluid is like a direct window into what's happening in your central nervous system, and the WHO guidelines are very clear. This needs to happen, and it needs to happen fast. So once they have that spinal fluid, they look for clues. And honestly, the differences are night and day. With bacterial meningitis, the fluid is usually cloudy, it's swarming with specific immune cells, and the sugar level is way down because the bacteria are literally eating it. In viral cases, it's almost the exact opposite. This clear pattern helps doctors know what they're up against fast. Now, to be 100% sure what the culprit is, there are 2 main tests. First, there's the gold standard, a CSF culture. They actually grow the bacteria from the fluid in a lab. It's incredibly accurate, and it tells them which antibiotics will work best. The only downside? It can take a day or 2. And that's where the PCR test comes in. It's the rapid clue, a quick DNA scan that can give you an answer in hours, guiding treatment while that culture is still growing. And that word, speed, is everything. Because once a doctor even suspects bacterial meningitis, every single minute matters. The playbook puts a massive emphasis on what happens next. It is a true, no-kidding race against time. And this brings us to probably the most critical part of the whole treatment plan, the golden hour. The guidelines say the goal is to start antibiotic treatment within 1 hour of a patient arriving. That single hour can be the difference between a full recovery and a completely devastating outcome. So it all boils down to this very clear, very urgent action plan. The second you suspect meningitis, the clock starts. You get the samples you need, the spinal fluid, the blood, and then you act. You start the antibiotics immediately. The guidelines couldn't be more direct about this. Do not wait for lab results if it means delaying treatment. You can always adjust the drugs later, but you can never get that golden hour back. So what does that immediate attack look like? The primary weapon is a powerful, heavy-hitting antibiotic like ceftriaxone. But what's really smart about the playbook is that it's adaptive. If the patient is someone at higher risk for a specific bacteria called Listeria, say an older adult or a pregnant woman, doctors add a second drug. If they're in an area with known drug resistance, they might add a third one right from the get-go. It's a tailored, evidence-based attack. But like we said at the start, just surviving the infection is often only the first battle. The journey doesn't just stop when you're discharged from the hospital. And this is why the playbook puts such a new and powerful focus on the long-term impact. This brings us right back to that really stark statistic. 1 in 5 survivors of bacterial meningitis is left dealing with long-term problems. The medical term is sequelae. And as you can see, we're talking about major life-changing issues: permanent hearing loss, seizures, cognitive problems, and in the most severe cases where sepsis is involved, even limb amputation. And this is where the playbook makes a major shift. It formalizes aftercare. Now, every single patient has to be reviewed for these complications before they even leave the hospital. A formal hearing test is required within 4 weeks. And if anything is found, there has to be an urgent referral to rehab. It's all about being proactive, not reactive. This quote right here on hearing loss shows you just how critical that urgency is. The inflammation from meningitis can actually cause the delicate parts of the inner ear to harden and turn to bone. It's a process called cochlear ossification. And if you wait too long to catch the hearing loss, the window for a treatment like a cochlear implant can literally close forever. The playbook is designed to keep that window open. So after all of this, the diagnosis, the race to treat, the crucial aftercare, where does this leave us? What's the path forward from here? The goal is as ambitious as ever. Defeat meningitis as a public health problem by the year 2030. And these new guidelines, this playbook, it's not just another document. It's the most critical tool we have to make that vision a reality, by standardizing the best science for every patient everywhere in the world. Which leaves us with one final powerful question. For centuries, meningitis has been one of our oldest, most feared enemies. But now, for the first time in history, we have a single, global playbook to fight back. The question is no longer, what should we do? We know what to do. The real question is, can we come together and do it? Can science and global cooperation finally conquer this ancient foe? The next few years are going to give us the answer.